Good afternoon, everyone. We are starting the webinar now. So if you can hear me and if you can see the slide, please give me a thumbs up in the chat section, please. Okay, I get all good from Srijit. Okay, yeah, all fine. Done. Okay, I take it that everybody can hear me now. So just few things about Showtime first. So let's say anytime you are not able to hear us or you're not able to see the slide, please refresh your screen, your browser, or the soft refresh would be Control R or Command R, and the hard refresh would be Command Shift and R. So if you do a hard refresh, most of the time it would work. Let's say even then you're not able to hear us, we will send across the recording to you. So please be patient with us. We will send it across within 2 or 3 days. So just be patient, and we will be sending across the presentation and the recording as well. So now let's get started. Again, to people who joined late, I'm Robin from Zoho. Thank you for joining us today again. So before we get started, about Showtime, so you can see questions tab, polls tab, and chats tab on your left. Please use the particular tab for each section. So questions tab just for questions. If you have anything to ask us regarding e-invoicing, please ask us in that question. So we'll patiently answer all these questions for you. And again, like the poll that we had now, we have 2-3 polls lined up. Please vote for those polls as well. Please participate. And let's say you want to tell us anything, please do so via the chat tab. Fairly straightforward for anything. And again, refresh your browser for any issues. Coming to the e-invoicing in Zoho products, e-invoicing will be available in Zoho Books, Zoho Invoice, Zoho Inventory, and Zoho Subscriptions from October 1st. We will have a follow-up session in another week or two to see how you can use Zoho Books, Zoho Invoice, Zoho Inventory, and Zoho Subscriptions to perform e-invoicing task. Today, we have our product experts with us to give a small demo on that as well after the session is over by Preetham sir. So now coming back to the session on e-invoicing, Preetham sir will explain why e-invoicing is preferred by governments globally, how it is being mandated in India, and for which segment it is available, what the process of e-invoice is, what are the modes of generation, entities that are likely to be affected, and we will also see how IRP works, how IR and QR code work together, and finally schema and content of an invoice. We'd wrap up the session with some challenges that will impact businesses, and we'll give a small demo on how e-invoicing would work in Zoho Books by a product expert, and then address some frequently asked questions on e-invoicing. About the speaker of the session, CA Preetham Hore works extensively on Indian GST and Gulf VAT. His journey to disseminate knowledge on GST started in 2009, and since then, he addressed more than 200 trainings for more than 10 key trade bodies in India and trained more than 20,000 professional and 5,000 government officials on GST, and has been consistently rated 9 out of 10. He has authored more than 15 books on GST and how to be future-proof. He has also authored numerous insightful articles and commented in more than hundreds of news articles in leading media houses like Tax India Online, Business Standard, TOI, Asian Age, The Hindu, etc. His articles and insights have created policy-level impacts, including lowering of GST on travel to Hajj. He has taken Indian GST expertise to the world level by writing exclusive ebooks on UAE VAT, Bahrain VAT, as well as Bhutan GST. Further, he wrote articles on Gulf VAT for leading media houses across Gulf. He's also a master trainer for ICAI Dubai chapters, as well as conducting more than 50 training on VAT across UAE, Oman, Bahrain, and Kuwait. So now, without further ado, let me introduce to you CA Preetham More. Hello, sir. Can you hear us?
Yes, Robin.
Yeah.
So thanks, Robin. Thanks for the kind introduction. Not only practically we are looking at the law evolvement or evolution of law, but the government is also looking at evolution of the systems also, or technology also. Unfortunately, in the very first year, I think all of you would be aware that practically the government found a big challenge when they were dealing with the technology, because initially we were told that just one second, there seems to be some technical snag. So I think now it's visible. So initially we were told that the government will go ahead with the GSTR 123 as a mechanism, but because of the practical challenges and technical issues, the government went ahead with GSTR 1 and 3B. However, in the subsequent year, there that is year financial year 18-19, as all of you are aware, the government started working on the invoice matching concept, and subsequently the government said, let us introduce even e-way bill system, and that's where in 18-19 you have these two major changes from technology perspective. After that, in 2019-20, I think all of you are aware that the government introduced the rule called as Rule 36 of Clause 4, wherein initially they introduced the restriction of 20%, subsequently it was brought down to 10%. And in 2019-20, practically from 1st of January 2020, the government had said that on a voluntary basis, we intend to introduce the concept of e-invoicing. However, as we have seen that because of the corona or COVID-19 pandemic, the government postponed it to 1st of October 2020. And that's where we are here now. So when we look at the timeline, practically, if you compare that how many days are left, I think it is not more than 19 days we are left with, and that's the reason all of us are here to understand the concept of e-invoicing. Friends, many of one of you would be having a question that will this again be postponed. So practically the possibility remains, but as an organization I think it is much better for all of us to assume that if this e-invoicing concept is introduced on 1st of October, then are we prepared or not? Because if it is applicable, I don't think so any one of us is having a choice that we can wait for the last date and then see whether it is postponed or not and then prepare it, because it's a technology based concept, and that's where all of us need to understand it and implement it in our IT system, ERP system, and like that. And that's the reason it is much better for us to understand this concept without going into the debate as to whether it will be further postponed or not. Friends, when you look at this concept of e-invoicing, I think all of you would now more than be aware about the fact that e-invoicing doesn't mean PDF copy of the invoice. Rather, it is a mechanism through which the government across the world gathers data on a real-time basis. So whatever goods or services you are supplying, the government tries to gather that data in a particular format from you. Correct? And that format typically is a light format. So wherein the weightage of data should not be more than few MBs, and that's the reason governments in India is now preferring now JSON format. So we'll certainly talk about it, but in the subsequent slides. Now, the very basic question all of you would be having is why e-invoicing is preferred across the world. One of the reason is that I think you would be aware also that across the world there have been numerous cases of GST VAT or GST VAT fraud or evasion, wherein even in India, I think all of you are aware that more than 1,20,000 crore worth fraud cases were identified in the last 3 years by DGGI, and these cases are of fake invoicing, and that's the reason the government is now more than keen to gather or get the data on a real-time basis of all the invoices which are being generated in the country, particularly if you are above the specified threshold. Now you will say that on a GSTR basis also, that is in the GSTR one return also, I am submitting the details of invoices. So why? What is the reason why the government is pushing for e-invoicing? Friends, in case of GSTR one, all of us submit the invoice level data, but please note we submit it after particular time is lapsed. So for example, for the month of October, you will submit the GSTR one on 10th or 11th of November. That means if you have raised invoices on 1st of October, there will be a time gap of 40 days. And that's the reason right now the government is saying we don't want even that time delay of 40 days. We want details or data on a real time basis. Now, the time you start sharing the data, sharing with the government on a real time basis, what happens? The government knows that once you have intimated those invoices to the government, practically it is difficult for you to make changes because there are few taxpayers in the country. Unfortunately, what they do, they would supply the goods and subsequently they will make the changes and disclose a lower turnover. And that's the reason if you are sharing the details on a real time basis, certainly this will also help the government identify such kind of cases if somebody is trying to showcase a lower turnover. Additionally, friends, practically all of us submit the data, but the data is not in a uniform format. Sometimes the invoice number would be mentioned as 001. Sometimes the invoice number would be mentioned as only one. For human beings, all of us understand 1 and 001 is one and same. But for systems, or IT system, it's a bit difficult to read. And that's the reason the government is saying that let us proceed with e-invoicing, so that the data is machine readable, and the government, by using the various data analytics tool, they can gather this data and then perform various activities and then understand whether there is a tax evasion or not. So certainly this data would be of huge importance and for the government. Now, all of you will say that whether India is the very first country which is talking about invoicing. So, friends, in this regard, please note that we are not the very first country. Rather, across the world, this concept of invoicing is already prevalent. Be it South Korea, Germany, European Union, everybody is having some sort of invoicing in their country. But the only difference between India and these countries is that these countries have given a substantial amount of transition time. We being unique, I think we have given only 1 month or 2 months time, because only on 30th of July we were told that this would be the schema or this would be the format for e-invoicing, and suddenly we were told that after 2 months, from 1st of October, this concept would be applicable. Whereas a country like South Korea, who are typically more technologically advanced, they are given 3 years time. But yes, being Indians, I think all of us are more than keen to take challenges all the time, and that's the reason the government has thrown this kind of challenge for us. And I think many one of us would be able to rise to the challenge and also meet the e-invoicing compliance also. And rather, I think most of you would be already prepared for that. Friends, additionally, please note that although invoicing is a concept which is prevalent across the world, but still at present, it is not completely adopted by each and every country. And that's where, when you compare the number of invoices which are generated globally with the normal invoices vis-a-vis e-invoices, you'll be able to understand that only 10% of the globally generated invoices, only 10% will comprise of typically e-invoices which are being generated. So that means 90% still is normal PDF and your Excel invoices. So that system still continues, and rather majority of the system is 90% is the general invoicing system, not e-invoicing. Now, another question you would be having is basically why the government is pushing for changes in invoicing. Basically, why the government is trying to gather the data on a real time basis. Friends, when you would like to understand any business, so practically, if as an accountant, if as a CFO, finance controller, CEO, if you would like to understand business of a particular person, then what you need, only you need two things, two data sets. One, what is their inward supply, that is what are they buying or what they are purchasing, and second, what they are supplying. If these two data sets are available with you, as a professional, you will be able to broadly understand as to what is the business activity of this organization. And that's the reason it is said that invoices is nothing but pulse of a business, correct? And that's the reason the government want to catch hold of this pulse of the business, so that on real time basis they are able to understand and detect various data sets which are generated within a particular company. Now, friends, this particular provision, that is e-invoicing, when you are going to decode or understand, you need to keep two things in your mind. One, you need to understand the law, and you also need to understand the technology. So it is not necessary or it is not enough for you to only understand the law, and it is not equally enough for you to only understand technology. You will have to marry both, that is tax and technology. That's the reason today we are going to also understand the law as well as the technology behind the same. So, friends, when you talk about law, I think all of you are aware under the in the GST law, there are broadly act, rules, and various notifications which are there. And finally, there is a website on in which you typically file the GST returns. So, similarly for e-invoicing, there is a separate website which the government has created. Additionally, when you talk about act, we need to understand, that is law perspective, we need to understand that the provisions related to invoices are covered under section 2 subclause 66, which defines basically what is a tax invoice. Then I think all of you are aware that section 31 talks about basically when you should or how you should issue a tax invoice. Then there is section 16 which talks about that typically a recipient would be in a position to claim input tax credit based on a tax invoice. Friends, additionally, there are various rules which you need to be aware about. That is Rule 46, 48, Rule 54, and we are going to discuss that in the subsequent slides. And additionally, there are more than 11 notifications which the government has issued, and we have summarized. So you don't have to go through all these. We have summarized it in a most simple manner in the next slides to come. So just be with us for next, I think, around 30 minutes, and you'll be very clear about this concept of e-invoicing. So, friends, as we discussed, that the concept of invoice is defined under the GST law under section 2 subclause 66, and it simply means that an invoice or tax invoice is a document which is typically referred in section 31. Now, what section 31 says, that if you are a registered person under GST law, whenever you are making a supply of taxable supply of goods or services, then practically you are supposed to issue a tax invoice. Now, all of you are aware that under Rule 46, there are various parameters or particulars. And if you add all those parameters, then count would be, I think, more than 20. So you need to add those 20 parameters or particulars, and then you are expected to issue a tax invoice under Rule 46. But please note, now the government has made a major change in this process. What they are saying, not only you are expected to issue a tax invoice, but at the same time, the tax invoice should be issued in a prescribed manner. That means you need not only issue a PDF copy or your signed copy or of the invoice to the customer, but you need to issue the invoice in a prescribed manner. And what is the prescribed manner? The government is saying that we have given a particular format, that is GST Inv 01, and this format you have to follow. That means there are certain contents, there are certain fields, there are certain schema, correct, which you have, wherein you will need to fill the data. And once you fill that data you will have to submit or share on a particular electronic portal. And once you submit that data on that particular portal in a format, and I think all of you are aware that is JSON format, then the government will give a IRN number to you, that is invoice reference number. Once you get that invoice reference number, you will also get a QR code also. Now you are expected to include this QR code in your tax invoice, and you are expected to issue that tax invoice to the customer. Correct? Now please note, practically when you look at your entire invoicing process, what is the change for you? The only change is that you are submitting the data to the government and you are getting a IRN number, correct, and a QR code. And this QR code you need to print on your tax invoice. So when you understand Rule 46, as we discussed, that Rule 46 prescribes certain more than 20 contents. What the government is saying, in that contents which you are mentioning on a particular tax invoice of yours, what you need to do, you just need to add one more content, that is QR code. Correct? Many one of you will say, what about IRN number? Friends, if you are mentioning QR code, please note, the time you scan that QR code by a app, practically you will be able to understand even the IRN number, because QR code will generate around 8 details, and one of the details which will be generated by QR code is IRN number, and we'll discuss that separately. Friends, additionally, please note that Rule 48 subclause 5 specifically mention that if you are expected to issue a e-invoice, correct, your business is liable to issue a e-invoice, and if you are issuing a normal invoice, then the document which you are going to issue would not be considered as the invoice itself. And what it means, it practically means that the recipient can be denied input tax credit, because please note, under section 16 subclause 2, no registered person shall be entitled to claim credit unless and until he is in possession of the tax invoice. Now, if as a supplier you are required to issue a tax invoice, correct, but you did not issue it in the prescribed manner, Rule 48 says that that document will not be considered as an invoice or tax invoice. And that will mean that your recipient will be in a big soup. That means he may not be in a position to claim the credit. That's where be a bit careful. If invoicing system is applicable to you, you should not have a second doubt. You should immediately prepare for the same. So friend, let us understand to whom it is applicable. And before we get into the aspect of to whom it is applicable, we need to understand to whom it is not applicable, so that then we can zero on to whom or which entities this invoicing scheme or system is applicable. As all of you are aware, that the government has given certain exemptions, correct, and the exemption is given to specified entities. And what the government is saying, that if you are a SEZ unit, this e-invoicing system is not applicable to you. Additionally, if you are an insurer, banking company, financial institution, NBFC, GTA, passenger transport business, correct, you are in the business of admission to multiplex, then e-invoicing system at present is not applicable to you, that because they have been given exemption, correct, so they are not covered under the e-invoicing right now. Friends, but please note that only SEZ unit is excluded, not SEZ developer. So if you are a SEZ developer, correct, then you are likely to get covered if you are above the specified threshold, and we are going to discuss that in the next slide. If you are a banking company, please note that as we discussed, banking company, insurance company, right now they are not covered under the ambit of e-invoicing, but it has been clarified by the NIC as well as GST and team that the exemption is qua business. Qua business means it is only for banking business. Now, if a banking company is also having a commercial property and if they are going to rent it out to a third party, then that is not the banking business. And that's where naturally, because their turnover is going to be more than 500 crore, then in such cases they will be required to issue an invoice. So please note that a banking company may also be required to issue an invoice subject to certain scenarios, correct? In certain scenarios. So be a bit careful. As far as input service distributor concept is concerned, as I think all of you are aware that e-invoicing is not applicable to them. So now naturally you will be asking to whom it is applicable. So friends, please note it is applicable to a business entity from 1st of October 2020 if their aggregate turnover in the previous year is more than 500 crore, correct? Now this is a mandatory condition. Unless and until your turnover in the previous year, correct, is more than 500 crore, you are not expected to generate a e-invoice system. Now friends, please note in the last week the NIC team has given a relaxation. They are saying we will not look at the last year turnover, even if in your case, if in the last 3 years, if your turnover is more than 500 crore, then also you can voluntarily apply for e-invoicing system, correct? So you can go on their website, e-invoicing website, and you can request for e-invoicing system or given for access to be given to e-invoicing system. So friends, in this regard, like say 500 crore turnover which the government has specified, many one of you will say which turnover we are talking about, correct? So government has given the definition of aggregate turnover under section 2 subclause 6. And this turnover definition includes not only your regular taxable turnover, but it also includes your exempt supplies as well as export. Additionally, please note that if you are making any supplies to your distinct person, even that turnover is expected to be included in the definition of aggregate turnover. That's where, friends, be a bit careful. If your case is falling on the borderline, because if you are a taxpayer who is having 495 crore turnover, then try to check it again and again whether you are crossing that 500 turnover on crore turnover or not. Because practically it might happen that if you add the distinct person supplies and all, then in such cases you might be required to issue a invoice only. So be a bit careful in this case. Additionally, friends, one good thing which GSTN has done, which we would like to congratulate them, what they have done, they have sent an email like this to all the companies whose turnover, as per their internal data, is more than 500 crore rupees. So just check your inbox, correct? Your email box. Just see whether you have received this kind of email. Because if you have received this kind of email, then practically it means your turnover is more than 500 crore and this e-invoicing system is applicable. Many a time it happens that so the email might go to junk folder or spam folder, or the person whose email ID was given, now that person has quit the organization, and that's where that email is not getting regularly checked. So friends, please check these kind of emails also. Check your spam folder. If the person has left, if he's not well, then you should go and check his email box whether any email is received from GSTN. Because if it is received, that means practically this e-invoicing system is applicable to you. Now, even after going through this email box, if you are unable to find it, what the government has said, they are saying that you can also check it independently. You can go to this website which the government has given, that is einvoice1.gst.gov.in. Correct. On this website, you can check whether for you the e-invoice system is enabled or not. Correct. So by using your GSTN number, you can understand whether this system is enabled or not. And what you should do, one thing very important all of you should do as a participant, go to this website, check by using your GSTN number whether this invoice system is enabled for you or not, and take a screenshot of this, correct? You can see in this screen slide which is appearing, it specifically mentioned, sorry, you are not enabled for e-invoicing system. So take a screenshot of this, correct? Because tomorrow if somebody questions, if the GST authority questions why you did not why you are not issuing invoices, at least you can tell based on this system based data that the system had not enabled me to issue an invoice, and that could be of help to you in certain scenario. That's where be a bit careful. Although this system is not completely reliable because it's a self-assessment mechanism, you are expected to determine the turnover, but still this will help. Friends, once this e-invoicing system is made applicable, and right now as it is applicable for more than 500 crore assessee who is having more than 500 crore turnover, across India it is expected to impact around 7,500 taxpayers only. If you count it on GSTN based, around 48,000 GSTNs are expected to be impacted. So all of you will say it is such a small set of taxpayer base. So why the government is trying to push it for such a small taxpayer base? Friends, one of the reason for that is that more than 45% of the tax collection is actually happens from these taxpayers. That is the companies who are having more than 500 crore turnover. That's the reason the government wants to start with them, and naturally they will reduce the threshold. So initially it will be 500 crore, then it will be brought down to say 250 crore, then it might be brought down to 100 crore, then 50, then 25, then 5, something like that. So in days to come or years to come, e-invoicing system might become applicable to almost all the taxpayers in India. Correct? And friends, please note that many one of you might be having business organization whose turnover is just 200 crore. Correct? But still you are participating in today's session. The most important thing for all of you is that one, you need to understand the concept right now, because might be after 6 months, 1 year, anyways this concept would be applicable to you. And second most important thing is, even if your turnover is only 200 crore, it is possible that you are purchasing goods or services from companies whose turnover is above 500 crore rupees. And that's the reason you need to be very much certain before claiming input tax credit on the invoices which are being issued by such taxpayer. You need to be very much certain that these taxpayer who are supplying to you, your vendors, correct, if their turnover is more than 500 crore rupees, then in such cases they should issue you e-invoices only. You cannot now claim input tax credit from such vendors based on normal invoices. Again, you will say, how will I know? As we have given the link in the previous slide, there you can go and check their status whether they are e-invoice enabled or not. Correct? And this can be done on a real time basis also whenever you are receiving invoices from various vendors. Also, you can send a courtesy email also to your vendor. You can send an email that can you please let us know whether e-invoicing system is applicable to you or not, and if yes, whether from 1st of October you would be issuing invoices to us or not, so that tomorrow if there is any issue, at least you can go back to them and you can tell them that we had specifically asked you and you had replied saying no. Correct? So if there is any credit denial which happens because of that, at least you can go back to them. Friends, additionally, please note that if e-invoice system is applicable to you, for which document you are expected to use this e-invoice system. So e-invoice doesn't mean only for invoices. It also is applicable for credit note and debit note. That means e-invoice, e-credit note, and e-debit note is the three documents which you are expected to issue. Friends, additionally, you would be having certain question. What about delivery challan? What about bill of supply? What about job work challan? Should we also issue an invoice for these documents? The answer is clearly no. Right now, only three documents are covered under the ambit of invoicing system. That is invoices, credit notes, and debit notes. Correct? All the documents, if you are above 500 crore entity, if invoicing system is enabled for you, then from 1st of October, whatever invoices, debit note and credit note which you are going to issue, they should be e-invoices. Correct? Please note, it is likely that you are issuing credit note for financial year say 1920, but still if the credit note is issued after 1st October, then you are expected to issue a e-invoice only or e-credit note only. Friends, you will also be saying that whether e-invoice is applicable for all the documents. As we said, only for three documents, but is it applicable for all the transactions? Please note, e-invoicing system right now is enabled only for B2B cases, correct? Because the government initially wants to zero in only on small set of taxpayer, that is above 500 crore. And additionally, even in that small segment, they want to only target the B2B segment, correct? Because the other entity is claiming credit in such cases, correct? They might be claiming credit in such cases. That's the reason right now B2C segment is completely outside the scope, and in days to come they might add. But if your entity is covered under this, they are above 500 crore and they are covered under e-invoicing system, that means only in B2B cases you are expected to issue a e-invoice. Additionally, if you are supplying to government, typically I think right now almost all the government departments also are having a GST number. Practically even in such cases you will be expected to issue a e-invoice only. And in case of B2C cases, as we discussed, e-invoicing system is not applicable. Then you will say there are different types of supplies that I might be supplying domestically, I might be carrying out export, including deem export, and there would be scenarios of import also. What should I do? So for domestic supplies, e-invoicing is applicable. For export also, e-invoicing is applicable, including deem export. Additionally, for import, typically because a bill of entry is generated, for imports, e-invoicing system is not applicable. So, and provided, as we discussed, that the turnover threshold you should have crossed, that is, you should be an entity above 500 crore rupees. Now, friends, many one of you will say, okay, forward charge e-invoice is applicable. What about reverse charge mechanism? Whether I need to generate a e-invoice, a self e-invoice. So friends, please note, in case of reverse charge mechanism, e-invoice right now is not applicable. So if you are receiving a advocate services and on which you are expected to pay GST and reverse charge mechanism, please note you are not expected to generate a e-invoice in such cases. Correct? The schema, that is the government which has issued the schema in 01 form, that talks about reverse charge, but it is from supplier perspective, correct, not from recipient perspective. So reverse charge cases, please note you are not expected to generate a e-invoice. Now friends, you will say what would be the change in the process, that is before 1st of October and after 1st of October, what would be the change? If you look at the process, practically it will remain almost the same. So if you are a supplier of goods and your turnover is say 600 crore rupees, what will typically business process? You will sign the agreement with your customer, you will generate an invoice, correct? You will supply the goods, and before supplying you will generate a e-way bill. Once you supply the goods, after the month is finished, you will you will file your GSTR1. The I think many one of you would have filed today GSTR1 or yesterday. Then you will file your GSTR3B. You file your annual returns. You will do your annual audit, and if the department comes to audit, you will also submit data there. So basically, this system will remain same except the serial number 3, 4, and 5, which will get added. Now, after 1st of October, if your turnover is above 500 crore, what you are expected to do? You are expected to generate or create a JSON file, correct, with the prescribed content which the government has given, that is invoice 01, and we are going to discuss the prescribed content also. This content needs to be uploaded on the government portal, that is IRP, that is invoice registration portal. Once you upload this the data on the government portal, and when the government validates, correct, when the government portal validates this, then typically a IRN number would be generated and also a QR code would be generated. Now what you are expected to do is basically print that QR code on your tax invoice, correct, and then you are expected to issue that tax invoice to the customer. Please note that the QR code already contains the IRN number also, so that's the reason you are not expected to separately print IRN number. Now if you want, you can certainly do, because it's an additional field if you need IRN number to be printed, correct. But at the end of the day, please note that it's a choice available with you. Now when you look at the fact, when you compare this e-invoice system with e-way bill, many one of you would be having a question as to who can generate the e-invoice. Friends, as far as e-way bill is concerned, I think e-way bill, all of you know, a supplier can issue e-way bill, a recipient can issue e-way bill, and even a transporter can. But e-invoice can only be issued by the supplier. In certain e-commerce transactions, correct, the e-commerce company operator, they can issue e-invoice on behalf of their vendors, but otherwise typically only a supplier is expected to issue a e-invoice, no one else. Now how to prepare a e-invoice? I think all of you are aware now that you need to create a JSON. Now how you can create that JSON, I think, and how you can report it to the government. So as far as that reporting to the government is concerned, the government has given different mechanism to made available to you, correct. You can use the government facility with the offline bulk facility with the government has given to you. It's an option, it's a tool with the government has given. You can use that tool. You can do a direct integration, that is your system can be directly integrated. Typically this system is available for large taxpayers. And finally you can also do a API integration through a GST Suvidha provider. So these are the methodology or mechanism which the government is given. Additionally, there are also like say mobile app mechanism also, but I don't think so that is going to be used by many of the taxpayers. Once you upload the JSON file, as we discussed, the government will issue a IRN number and QR code to you. Additionally, this data which you are going to submit, correct, that e-invoice would be digitally signed by the IRP, that is invoice registration portal. And friends, as all of you are aware that this IRN number which we are talking about, this would be generated after a certain validation. So the IRP will do certain validations. So what will happen in the validation, that if you are not giving GST and number of the recipient, practically the government will reject that invoice. Why? Because this is only applicable, e-invoice as we discussed is only applicable in case of B2B cases. That means the recipient need to have a GST and number, correct. Additionally friends, when you look at the fact, that for same invoice number, you cannot issue, for the same invoice number, you cannot issue another IRN number. You cannot generate another IRN number. Means one invoice you cannot again and again submit to the IRP, and that's the reason the government will carry out certain basic checks. And once these basic checks are passed, then only after validation this IRN number and QR code are going to get generated. Now, what is this IRN number? IRN number is a basically a 64-digit hash. It's basically nothing but a hexadecimal number. So it's a code basically. And please note that this code would be unique throughout India. That means the way when you are having right now a PAN number, correct? A PAN number is a unique PAN number. So the same PAN number or number would not be given to any other person, correct? It will not be allotted. Similarly, this IRN would be unique number. And what will happen this with the unique data set, the government would be able to carry out various data analytics. And that's the reason the government is giving importance to the IRN number, because at present they are not able to do that. Now, what is a QR code? As we mentioned, that once you report the data, the government will generate an IRN number on their portal, and they will also generate a QR code. You will have to extract the QR code and print it on your invoice. Now, some of the participant might say, what is this QR code? So friends, please note QR code is nothing but your barcode. I think it looks like barcode, it's just certain dots. And once the QR code is printed by using a normal mobile one and the camera, you can understand various details on those invoices. For example, what is the GST and number of supplier, recipient, all those details will get auto populated on your mobile. So it's a very interesting concept of coding certain data, correct? And please note, we will also show you how QR code looks like in the subsequent slides. Now, please note in the QR code, there is also, correct, in the QR code, there is also IRN number also, which is already there. And that's the reason if you are printing a QR code on your invoice, the invoice number, IRN number may not be again mentioned. But there are many taxpayers, like say even our client are saying that they would like to print IRN number. So it is fine. If they want additional field on the invoice, that is permissible. The government is not going to say that you don't print a IRN number. Now, as far as invoice contents is concerned, please note that the government has amended this schema or format recently on 30th of July. And what they have done in the latest schema, they have added new fields, and at the same time, they have amended or deleted certain old fields. When you look at this format or schema which the government has given, there are numerous fields. There are more than 130 fields which are there, which you need to submit to the government. But please note that all the fields may not be applicable at one go. But on an average, if you look at the various fields, you'll be able to understand around 40 plus fields will be easily available in almost all the tax invoice cases. And that's the reason you will have to understand which are mandatory and which are conditionally mandatory fields. Friends, in the new revised schema format, if you look at it, basically the government has given certain new facilitation which was not there earlier, and this is based on the various feedback which was received by the government. What about the mandatory fields? You will say which are the mandatory fields. So please note name of the supplier, GSTN of the supplier, his address, correct? All these are mandatory fields. There are certain optional fields, for example, expiry date, warranty date, and all those you can optionally print if you want to. But as far as the format is concerned, when you look at the format, that is the JSON format in which you are expected to submit the data. So please note that the format needs to be in a particular, the data which you are going to submit needs to be in a particular format. That means when you are talking about the invoice number cannot be 001. It has to start with 1, because a human can understand that 001 and 1 is same, but systems cannot. And that's the reason you need to be a bit careful about the format also. Friends, in the initial days, many people have said that whether different kinds of business will be given different kinds of schema. So the government is saying that no, for everybody there would be one schema only. So practically one schema for everybody, one can say. Now, this is how the e-invoice is going to look like. This is the QR code which we are mentioning, correct? On the here you can see this QR code, correct? And if you take your mobile on this QR code, you'll be able to get that 8 fields which we talked about. Friends, many one of you will say that if I received a e-invoice, what should I do? How can I verify it? As we discussed, that only by using a mobile, correct? If you are having a QR code app, you can do that. Additionally, if your supplier is sending you a JSON file, even by using that JSON file, you can go to the government portal and you can submit the JSON file and you can understand whether it's a valid e-invoice or not. So there are different mechanisms using which you can understand the same. Additionally, friends, you will say, okay, I have generated a valid e-invoice, I have sent it to the customer, I have supplied the goods. What will happen afterwards? Friends, once you generate e-invoice, as all of you are aware, right now we are talking about three portals. One, e-invoice portal, second is e-way bill portal, and third is your GST return portal. What the government is saying that these three portals will be now linked together. Whatever data you are going to submit at the time of generation of e-invoice, that is at the time of generation of IRN and QR code, all this data which will be there with the IRP, that data would be transferred to the e-way bill portal. So that means your substantial details, that is part A, will get auto populated, and so whatever is your customer name and all, that will get auto populated. That will help you generate a e-way bill easily. And at the same time, please note your GSTR1 also, and there are various data tables, for example 4A, 4B, 6A, your export data and all that is also expected to get auto populated. So practically what it means, that certainly once you generate a e-invoice, correct, it's a single data. When you are generating a single e-invoice, that data will transfer to e-way bill portal also, and it will also travel to GSTR1 also, and that will means practically will be in a easier position to file your GSTR1 also. It will help you. So what the government is saying, that all these e-invoices which you are going to generate one by one, or using the bulk facility or number of invoices, so whatever you will communicate to the portal, IRP portal, that will travel to e-way bill portal, that will also travel to GSTR1. So there is no inconsistency between these datas which are you are communicating to the three portals. So certainly it's a helpful step, but practically you will have to ensure that whenever in the initial days, at least first few weeks, whenever you are generating invoice, just go on the e-way bill portal and check it once again, whether the data which you are reported on the e-invoice portal, whether the data which is appearing on e-way bill portal, whether it is same or not. Because in the initial days, in the tran 1 days and all, I think all of you recall that there were many such kind of glitches, that you had mentioned X number and Y number was appearing, correct? So just go and check it in the initial days. Then friends, you will say, okay, I would like to cancel my invoice. Can it be done? Can I delete a invoice? Practically, deletion of a invoice is not permissible. Once you have communicated the details to the government portal, you have generated a IRN number, then what the government is saying, that you can cancel it within 24 hours. But it cannot be completely wiped out. It cannot be completely deleted. That means there would always be a trace that you initially generated a invoice, correct, and then you cancelled it within 24 hours. So that is means allowed, but the trace would be there. Second, what if 24 hours are lapsed? That means that after 3-4 days you want to cancel it, then at that time you will not be in a position to cancel that invoice. Practically you will have to use the GSTR1 mechanism, that is you will have to issue a credit note, and through that mechanism you will have to cancel the invoice, correct? Friends, please note that once you generate a e-way bill, because you might have generated a e-invoice, after that you might have generated a e-way bill. After generation of e-way bill, if you want to cancel e-invoice, you will have to first cancel the e-way bill, and after that only you can cancel a e-invoice. So that has to be done in a right manner. Friends, additionally, many one of you will be having certain question as to, when I am transporting goods, should I carry all the invoices or all the documents? Which document should I carry? So please note that the government is expected to notify this aspect also, but at present, in our view, invoice with the appropriate QR code would be more than enough, correct, for you to send it across for transportation. So your e-way bill and your e-invoice would be more than enough. Although there is a question mark as to after e-invoicing system, whether e-way bill should continue or not. That itself is a question. But yes, at the end of the day, we'll have to continue for the time being both the things. So you have three portals now after e-invoicing system, and this is, I think, one of the biggest challenge. You are expected to file your GST returns on a particular portal. E-way bill you will have to generate on a second portal. Invoice, for that there is a third portal. So practically, it would have been much easier to maintain or have a same portal only, but the government has created three portals. That means you will have to have a three separate login ID, three separate passwords, and all those things. So that is one challenge. Second, as we mentioned, that if e-invoicing is there, whether e-way bill continue should continue or not, that itself is a question. We hope that in days to come, that is addressed appropriately, that at least one of the documents should be more than enough. Third important aspect is that this will mean one more reconciliation for you, because if you are a supplier whose turnover is more than 500 crore, you are falling under the bracket of e-invoicing. For B2B cases, you will issue e-invoices, but for B2C, you will issue normal invoices. That means you will have to have a reconciliation between both of them as to how many invoices I have issued, how many normal invoices I have issued. At the same time, Even if assume that you are a company who is having just 400 crore turnover, e-invoicing is not applicable. But at the same time, you'll have to also ensure on the purchase side, correct? On the purchase side, how many people are issuing invoices to you and how many people are issuing normal invoices to you. So again, that will mean one more reconciliation. Additionally, the government yet to clarify what if the electricity is down, internet is down, ERP system is down, the government portal is down. In such cases, what a taxpayer should do, because without IRN, can I then supply the goods or not? Otherwise, it will hamper my business. But on that particular aspect, the government has said that they will clarify, but in days to come, so we'll have to wait and watch. But friends, as we said or highlighted that the time is very short, there's a paucity of time. If invoicing is applicable, try to immediately work on it and try to get it right, your UAT and all, everything done before last week of October itself, rather than waiting for the same. Additionally, most of the taxpayer we have come across, or whatever we on a regular platform we are discussing with various clients, what we have seen, that many one of them, they are focusing only on the output side. They are saying that I am above 500 crore, that's where I need to be careful, I need to issue invoice. Somebody will say that my turnover is only 300 crore, so I need not worry. So friends, please note, not only on the output side you need to be worried about, but also on the input side also you need to worry. Why? Because tomorrow, when the government authorities will come for GST audit, or even under the annual return form or your GSTR 99C, even in those forms, the government will say how many e-invoices you have received. That kind of a data field might be asked, correct? Even in your GST audit, the authorities might ask you how many e-invoices you have received. And that's the reason, even on your purchase side, even in your vendor master, you should ensure that you are capturing the fact that this is a normal invoice and this is a e-invoice. Right now, for you, all the invoices are normal invoices only, but in your system you need to make this one important change, that is, you need to capture normal invoices and e-invoices separately. At least in the vendor master you can add a separate field, so it becomes easier for you to tag how many normal invoices you received in a particular month and how many e-invoices you received in a particular month. And that's the reason this is the most important aspect you need to keep in mind on the purchase side. So friends, as we discussed that because of paucity of time and very handful days are left for carrying out a UAT, try to do it at the earliest. Additionally, if you are facing any challenges when you are carrying out testing, try to communicate with GST and team and NIC team. We will give you their email ID. Additionally, try to conduct internal training for your procurement team, sales team, accounts team, logistics team. Obviously, we are, as a Zoho team, we are more than happy to see your other team members also participating in our future training. If you want this kind of training to continue even in the next week, in the days to come, please mention that in the chat box or in your feedback, so that we can also plan similar session in days to come. So with this, friends, we are through with our session. In the presentation, which this copy will be received by you. In the presentation, you will receive copies of link to all the notification which you have been issued by the government. Additionally, not only you should rely on all these documents, but please also try to refer to the e-invoicing website which we have mentioned in the presentation, because the government is regularly updating the various FAQs which they are issuing. And if you are having any question, if you want to give any feedback to the government, try to use this email ID. This could be helpful for you. If you are experiencing any challenges, try to share your feedback on this particular email ID. And with this, friend, we are through with our session for the day. Now I will request the team Zoho to take us through the demo, and after that we can go take the questions and we can answer the same. Thank you all. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir, for the wonderful session. We'll get back to you with the question and answer part. For now, we have Danish, our Zoho Books product expert, to give us a demo.
So this registration and all details also we have given. It's as a part of annexure. You can anytime refer it to the same. Yes.
Yes.
Team Zoho is there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You can hear me, sir?
Hello, Robin.
Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Mr. Robin.
Hello. Hello.
Mr. Robin. I think there is some technical glitch. Just give us a second. The team can give a demo, and afterwards we will answer the questions. Meanwhile, please share your question in the chat box as well as your question and answer box. Additionally, if you like the session, please mention the same. Your feedback is extremely important to us.
Yes. So now we'll go to Danish, our Zoho Books product expert, to give us a demo on how e-invoicing would work in Zoho Books. Danish, can you respond so that we can?
Hello, Robin. Hi. Hello, everybody. Hello, everyone. Hi, very good evening. I'm Danish here. I'm a product expert of Zoho Books. Hope you all are doing great today. So are you able to see my screen? If yes, just give me a thumbs up in the chat box. Well, all right. It seems that my screen is visible. So, okay. Now, RCA Preetham Mahari sir has explained on what is e-invoicing and what are all the plots of e-invoicing as such. But wherein, how do you generate this e-invoice is what we'd have to look into, right? So now we as Zoho Books and Zoho Finance Suite has got this sorted. Okay, I'll take you through a short demo on how you generate this e-invoice in Zoho Books. All right, so now this would be your dashboard of Zoho Books, and you will navigate to the settings and you will click on preferences. You would find this e-invoicing tab here. Okay, and now currently I have connected my Zoho Books to the IRP portal, and hence it is showing as yes, it is already connected. If at all it is not connected, I will get an option of connect now. Okay. If I click on connect now, I need to just give in the credentials, the username and the password. Ideally, if you have registered Zoho as a GST Suvidha provider in the e-waybill portal, you can use the same credentials for e-invoicing as well. All right. If not, you can very well generate a new set of credentials from the e-invoicing portal also, that is the IRP portal. Now this portal and Zoho Books is connected. Let's see a live demo on how do we create a transaction and how do we push it to the IRP portal and generate the IRN number. So you will navigate to the sales module and click on invoices. So these are the set of invoices which I have created already. Okay, let me create a new one for you so that you can have a look. You just click on new invoice. Now, some of the fields have been marked as mandatory, as Preetham Mahari sir has explained us on that. Okay, we'd be choosing the customer as Ashwin. Okay, now the customer name is mandatory, the billing address is mandatory, the GSTN number is mandatory, and then your place of supply, the invoice number, which would be auto-generated, and the invoice date is mandatory. Apart from this, now with your item details, what is going to be mandatory for you? Okay, I have chosen this table. For this table, the HSN code is mandatory. So if it is going to be a service, then the SAC code would be a mandatory one. Okay, so now let's say I have given in the details here, the rate and all these things I have specified. Okay, now directly you will not be able to send this invoice to a customer because the IRN has to be generated. You just click on save as draft. So once you click on save as draft, this invoice would be as yet to be pushed. So the label would be yet to be pushed because we have not yet submitted to the portal, and there would be no QR code and IRN number. Okay. Now in my organization, I have enabled the approval process. Okay. So I just submit for approval. Okay. And then get it approved. I am the approver right now. So I just get it approved. Okay. So now the IRN will be generated in just milliseconds. I'm going to click on push to IRP. So once I click on push to IRP, the details will be sent by Zoho to the IRP portal, and the data will be validated in the IRP portal. Once done, they'll be giving us an IRN number and the QR code, which would be displayed here in such a way for you. This is the QR code generated and this is the IRN number. All right. Okay. So now we have successfully generated this invoice and pushed it to the IRP portal and got the IRN number. What if there is some error in this invoice? Let's say the GSTN number is wrong, or maybe in HSN code or the SAC code is wrong as such. So what we'd be doing, okay, I'll just show that as a live example for you. Okay. So let's say I've just chosen this invoice. Okay. And I have clicked on push to IRP. So now this would be the error message. So pushing to the IRP portal failed because of the following reasons. So the GSTN number is wrong as such. So this did not generate and it gave us an error. So what I can do is I can edit the invoice and then I'll be making the necessary changes. And again, I will just push it to the IRP and get the IRN being generated. So once the IRN is generated, this would show you a label of e-invoice is being pushed. An IRN or a QR code has been generated. If you would like to copy this, you can right away copy this. Okay. And now let's say this invoice is wrongly being created and you would have to make some necessary changes. Let's say just, the amount you will have to change or any changes it may be. Okay. If it is going to be within 24 hours, you will just click on cancel e-invoice. Okay. And let's say the data entry mistake. Okay. And I just click on cancel e-invoice. Once this is done, we will contact the portal. Okay. And we will tell the portal that no, this has been canceled. So the data which is staying in the IRP portal itself, that gets canceled right away. And the status would also be marked as cancelled here. All right. So now this is the case of within 24 hours. What if the 24 hours has been lapsed? So maybe after a day you want to cancel. So this cannot be done from your IRP portal. So hence it cannot be done from Zoho Books also. You will have to go to the GST portal and then you will have to cancel it in your GSTR1. All right. And then just in Zoho Books, you can mark this as cancelled, or I'll just show you a live example for that as well. Okay. Let's say this is an invoice which is already being generated. Okay. So I do not have the invoices. Yeah. So here it is being pushed and I have generated it. Okay. But it's been elapsed. I think on 9th, I have on 9th of September, I have generated this. Okay. I'm just going to click mark as cancel. I will just give the reason here and I'm going to mark as cancelled. That's it. So the other part would be done in your GST portal only, just because if it is going to be within 24 hours, the data is going to be in the IRP portal itself. If it is going to be after 24 hours, the data would be pushed from the IRP portal to the GST portal. All right. So now, okay, we have seen about the e-invoice generating the IRN, the QR code, but wherein what's next? This is about your e-wables. Okay. When you generate an invoice, you have two options: either to generate the e-invoice with the e-waybill details or without the e-waybill details. Okay, so currently I do not have it in this organization, but wherein I can just let you know what happens ideally. Okay, so when I'm gonna just click on push to the IRP portal. Okay, so I just submit this for approval. Okay, and I approve it. Now here I'd be having an option of push to the IRP portal, right? So when I click on push to IRP portal, I'd be getting a pop-up here which says generated with e-waybill details or without e-waybill details. If you click on with e-waybill details, it is going to ask you the part A and the part B, that is the necessary details which is required, the transporter name and all these things, all right? The transporter ID and the distance and all. So once you're given that, we will be sending the details to the IRP portal and the IRP portal will send the details to the e-waybill portal. Both would be generated. That is, an IRN and an e-waybill number also will be generated and it will be displayed in your invoice, which is generated in Zoho Books. Okay, so now let's say you have generated this IRN number, but now you want to generate an e-waybill round. How is that going to be done? So within this e-waybills module, we'd be bringing up an option of you can just enter your IRN number and create an e-waybill. You don't have to put in the invoice number and all these things. Just put in your IRN number and your e-waybill would be generated, and it is going to be associated with your invoice. Now let us see some of these statuses which is there. That is the status label. Okay, so now this red label mentions that e-invoice has been cancelled. So what is the other label? This is invoice yet to be pushed. So now this green label mentions that this has been successfully pushed and you have generated the IRN. All right, so again, e-invoice cancelled. So yeah, so if at all there are some errors, it will show up here in a pale yellow. Failed to push the invoice to the IRP portal. This may be just because of due to some errors. Okay, now we have covered the part of creating an invoice that is a single invoice as such. All right, single invoice manually, but wherein let's say you may create bulk invoices. Let's say you're going to create 10 invoices or 20 invoices or more than that as well. Now how this is going to be handled for you, we have got it covered as well. So within this all invoices tab, you will have an option of yet to be pushed for e-invoicing. That is the status. I will click on that. Okay, and I will choose the number of invoices that has to be pushed to the portal. Okay, I've chosen these many. Okay, and then now I will be bulkly pushing this to the IRP, and we will have the IRN number and the QR code being generated. Okay, now what is the next thing that has to be looked into here? What if there are some errors? How is that being handled now for you? If invoice is created manually, then all right, we'd be showing up the error for one invoice. But what if for this bulk invoices? What we will be doing is we will drop an email to the admin email ID, all right, stating that, hey, you have tried generating the IRN number for all these invoices, but wherein there are some errors in a few invoices. So it's going to list you out what all the invoices which has been successfully pushed and you have generated the IRN, and what are all the invoices which has been pushed and failed due to some errors. So you can come back to Zoho Books again and then make the changes and push it to the portal, get the IRN and the QR code being generated. Okay, fine. Now this is with respect to the normal invoicing as such. Okay, there may be some recurring sales for you which would be happening. So how can this be handled? So in Zoho Books, we have an option of recurring sales. So wherein you will be creating an invoice and let's say you would be setting up a frequency of repeat every. So when this has to repeat, let's say month on month, you know that every month the sale is going to happen and you have signed a contract with the customer. Okay, so you will just choose it as repeat every month on month. Okay, but now for even this, an e-invoice has to be generated. That is, the IRN number has to be generated, right? So for that, we do have three options. I will show that to you. So now we are in the settings tab. Now we will click on preferences. Okay, and then here you have this recurring invoices tab. You click on the recurring invoices tab. Okay, there are three options here. So the first option would be create invoices as draft. So this means that you will be creating the invoice. I mean, Zoho Books should be creating the invoices and it'll be saving it as a draft status. So you will have to push it manually. Okay. The other thing is that create, auto approve, push, and then send the invoices to the customer directly. So Zoho Books would create the child invoice, approve it automatically. If you do not have an approval process, then it's not gonna, you don't have this approval process itself. Okay. You would just, Zoho Books would automatically push it to the portal and then send the invoice to the customer directly. Now, the other option would be that create, auto approve, charge, push, and send the invoices to the customer. You will, Zoho Books would be creating the invoice, auto approving it, charging the customer if that is a recurring payment and the credit card has been added. Then Zoho Books will automatically push it to the IRP portal, get the IRN being generated, and then send the invoice to the customer automatically. So these are some preferences which you can have a set of. So this is with the Zoho Books. Zoho Inventory, Zoho Subscriptions, and Zoho Invoice. So all these would be, all these features would be available across the Finance Suite products, which I have mentioned right now. And these will be available for you for invoices, the credit notes, and the debit notes, which you would be creating as such. So yeah, this is done from my end.